Good afternoon and welcome to M.M.E. I'm your host, Blind Prime, and for today I have something really special and awesome. Something I didn't think I'd find on the shelves, but I did find it. Well, actually, my sighted friend noticed it and was like, "Hey, do you like the Bad Batch record?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do like the Bad Batch record. Why do you ask?" And he's like, "Well, there's one here on the shelf." I'm like, "What? No way there's one on the shelf." That's like whenever I came across scrap metal from the Devastator series at my local Walmart. It was just there. And I'm like, "What the? Why is this here? That's awesome." And that's kind of what the feeling is for this guy here. I was just surprised to find him sitting there on a shelf in the wild. It was beautiful. It was amazing. I love it. And I love this figure. And we're going to talk about him today. He may actually be part of the. He's going to be in the top 10 this year. And I hope you guys are ready and gals are ready for my top 10 action figures of 2023, which will be coming out at the end of this month. And then I'll have the top 10 Transformers of 2023 also coming out at the end of this month. And so if you want to watch those, tune in then. I am going to cover a few more Transformers and G.I. Joes through, or just other 1/12 scale action figures throughout this month. But there's not many of them left. My budget is scraped dry. I'm trying to pay back the credit cards currently. It's so not much content to bring you, hence why I'm going to be discussing like Lego stuff, because my Lego stuff is always my backup whenever I don't have anything to talk to you about when it comes to the action figures. Legos make a great backup because they're creative and you can do a lot with them. So let's talk about Wrecker today. If you are lucky enough to find a Wrecker outside of a scalper's hands, I congratulate you, sir or madam. This is an amazing figure, and we're going to talk about it today. There's only a few negatives, and I think I should bring up the negatives first so that we can just get them out of the way. His negatives are loose ankles. This guy has got a soft ratchet for me in his ankles, but for this guy, the left hand ankle soft ratchet died before I ever got the figure. The right hand one is trying to die. It's very loose ratchet there. It's very loose joints, and that is the most annoying thing about him. He's got stiff legs. Everything about this guy is stiff and wonderful except for those ankles. Those ankles annoy me, and I wanted to share that with you so that you understand. Be careful when posing. I advise doing that slight tilt to the legs to give you that almost at ease pose where the heels are very close to one another but the toes are facing away. That should help you with the problem of the ankle. Now let's get into this figure. We'll talk about accessories first. Let me take the gun off his hand. And this gun is a nice little sci-fi gun. It's got a packet in the side for ammunition, though it is non-removable, which is sad. It's got a nice little handle. No sort of grip texture going on that handle, though not really many textures happening here at all. It's just kind of a sci-fi beam gun that the clone troopers would use, and it comes down to that little point. Not really hollow, so it isn't like you can plug blast effects into it. Though, I think, judging by how it's sized, we can find out something about it real quick. I just discovered there was a piece from my advent calendar laying on the table that needed to go hiding. So let's get a blast effect from the Transformers, and let's see how that blast effect applies to this. Let's see, blast effect. You know what? We'll get a big one. We're just gonna see. Okay, so boom, look at that. It fits. So if you're wondering what type of blast effects to use for your Star Wars Black Series characters, don't look any further than the Transformers. All right, so that's kind of cool. Let's set that gun off to the side. It's a decent gun, but it doesn't really have anything special about it. Next accessory is this cool kniff. Pull it out like the sword from the stone. This thing is more like a machete because of its sheer height. Let's take a look at his arm. It goes from his spin you around. There we are. Let's see, from the tip of the there we go, his fist. Look at that. The blade itself is as long as his forearm, from elbow to hand. That is a big blade. It's as big as his feet. Let's take a look. Let's see if they actually did the feet right. Oh yeah, they did. Look at that. Look at that. It's just a little longer than his feet. This guy has got a blade on him. It's got a serrated edge. Um, there it is. No. All right, it's got a serrated edge on one side. It's got a clean edge on the other. There isn't any sort of cut in it to make it like a Bowie knife or anything. This is just a really big knife with a serrated edge on the back. Let's go ahead and put it back in the sheath that goes down his right leg. And because of this sheath, he doesn't have any sort of boot articulation. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I spoke too soon. I spoke too soon. It's just really tough. Okay, cool. So let's move to the next accessory, his backpack. His backpack is fun. There's not really anything special going on with his backpack. It's just got a really interesting connector. It's a square connector, not the normal circle connector that we've seen before with other 112 stuff from the from Hasbro. But you can actually hold the figure up by his backpack. I thought that was kind of neat. That's a really sturdy point. It's a really sturdy connector. This backpack has got some textures on it. It's got this big circle thing in the center. It's got some little claw bits on the bottom, which are used for holding the gun. See, remember that little bit that I said, the thing that I thought was an ammo pack? You can actually kind of wedge that in between those two pieces down there, and then the gun will hang out underneath his backpack. So all you have to do is just kind of get that in there and wedge it in good. And there you go. That's a way to hold the gun on the backpack and not have it really interfere with the character or anything like that. So that's something you can do with the backpack and the gun, and set those two off to the side. Now let's talk about another fun accessory of his last accessory that we're going to talk about today, his helmet. I love it when we get removable helmets. I always take points off for a 1/12 scale character not having a removable helmet. That is that is just terrible in my opinion. You've got the ability, you've got the size there. Give us removable helmets. I was so upset with the Vipers not having removable helmets, and I'm so happy that he does. I was a little upset that the blacksmith from the Mandalorian show didn't have a removable helmet. I've covered her on this channel. I did not like that character. This one is pretty fun though. This helmet's got some really cool textures to it, but it isn't the normal T helmet that we've come to expect. I thought this would be like a normal Trooper T helmet, but it's not. It feels like a morph between a Clone Trooper's helmet and a Stormtrooper's helmet. It's like the step between them. It's got some stuff down here where the mouth is, and it's obvious like the eye sockets are becoming more rounded like in the Stormtroopers. This is a fun helmet because this is the helmet that is between the Clone and the Stormtroopers helmets. That makes it really interesting. You can see the evolution of the helmets there, and I appreciate the fact they did that. While the helmet's off, let's go ahead and set it off to the side. It fits on his head quite excellently. And let's talk about Wrecker's face. He's got some good ears on him. He's got a bald head because I don't know if he shaves or if he's just naturally bald. He's got some bushy eyebrows. He's got some good deep set eyes. He's got that grin going on there. Wrecker is, he's just a happy guy in the show. He's always willing to fight, but he's also always willing to love, and that is something I always appreciate from the bigger guys. They, especially the ones that are all kind and soft-hearted and stuff. They're cool. He's got a wonderful face, wonderful head sculpt. It does feel a little cartoonish, but then again, he comes from the Bad Batch, which is kind of cartoonish. It is a cartoon, so it works. It works for him. The articulation for the head, it's on a double ball joint, so you can do things like have him like lean backwards and then look backwards, or lean forwards and then look down. So he can kind of look further than he can look down at people, and that's really nice. He can crack his head really far to the left and really far to the right. He can spin it 360 degrees if he wanted to become the Exorcist, and of course he can get down like everybody else. Oots, 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 oots. All right, so that's his head articulation. Body articulation is limited. We don't really have much. It moves back and forth, but only by a little, and there's no ratchet in there. There's no upper articulation. That's it when it comes to his core. But he can rotate 360 degrees below that. So that's nice. He's not as articulated on the core as we've come to notice from other figures. But then again, he's a bigger guy, and bigger guys don't normally are known for their articulation in their core. Now let's take a look at his shoulders. He can move them 360, but because of the pauldrons, they get in the way, so that doesn't happen. And you don't want to break your pauldrons. Those are really sweet pauldrons, and we're going to talk about them in a second. Raising up, you get 45 on each arm and double jointed elbows. Wonderful, double jointed elbows. Then you get a rotation in the hand. Interesting thing about his hands, one hand is a trigger, the other hand is a C-clip. So he can grab things with one hand and he can shoot things with the other hand. Typical Wrecker. Though, interestingly enough, the sheath for his gun is on his left hip and the sheath for his knife is on his right leg. I wish that these hands were switched over and his left hand was a trigger hand and his right hand was the C-clip, or his left leg had the sheath and his right leg had the gun holster, which is just this weird line thing hanging off on the side of him. We're going to talk about that in a second when we get to it. So the arms, when it comes to sculpt wise, are really excellently done. It feels like smooth clone trooper armor, but he does have these spikes on the ends of his elbows, so he can practice some Thai kickboxing and hit them with the elbow hit. You know, that elbow. Yeah. All right. So that's going to be really deadly, especially when someone this strong hits you with an elbow that's got some sharp piece of metal on it. You're not coming back from that. And this guy's known for just picking up battle droids and ripping them in half and stuff. So he's pretty strong. The other hand, arms got the same textures. The difference is that the pauldrons are asymmetrical. One pauldron has a smooth line in the center and rounded bits on either side, and then it comes all the way to the collar for Wrecker. The other pauldron is rounded completely, and it feels like it's two rounded pauldrons stacked on top of each other, and it does not go all the way to the helmet. To the collar. It stops before the collar. So that's kind of the pauldron's explanation there. Each of them are really nice, and one of them feels like it may have some emblems etched into it, which is really cool. Where my finger's at right now. Let me know, those of you who are still watching, is anything written there in that pauldron area? I'd like to know. Now, let's move on to the core of him isn't really, doesn't really have any cool textures. It just feels like some more body armor for a clone trooper, though he does have a bit of a mono boob or a gut in the center there. That's a really weird spot for it, and it peeks out a bit from him. It's odd. Coming down here to his legs, we've got some wonderful thigh sculpt work going on here. I love the armor work on this guy. You can feel all the individual panels that have been connected together to make him. It's pretty good. Double jointed knees, and a really interesting thing going on here with the knees that I haven't seen before. The knee pad is attached to the thigh. It's not attached to the lower leg. So when you bend the knees, the knee pad stays at the top instead of going down below. That's interesting. Haven't really seen that before. Then he's got a boot swivel. He's also got a thigh swivel. And then coming down here, we've got his lower leg armor is very rectangular feeling, very sturdy, because those are his shins. You got to give extra armor to the shins. Shins are really bad. Kick a big guy in the shin and see what happens to him, and it's never fun. Then we come down here to the feet, and he's got some great textures on these feet to be like combat boots. Really, you feel the synthetic fibers, and then underneath it, we've got some sculpt work going on in the bottom of the shoe. They didn't have to sculpt the underside of this, but they did, and I always love it when they do. This Wrecker is an excellent figure, and before I let you go, let's show off the way of holding his gun to the side here. He's got this little piece of wire that comes out the side of him, and we've just got to find the little piece there. Okay, so what you do here is you take that piece and you thread it through the trigger guard for Wrecker here, and then it's going to slide into its own little hole, which is always a little difficult to find. And there you go. You can just have the gun sitting on the side of him, and it's attached with that little wire. That's pretty cool. I do like that. That gives a little versatility and allows this to be really loose, and no sculpt work needed. Also, he can hold other weapons, and his ankle just gave way. He just had himself a little fall. All right. So And that is Wrecker from the Bad Batch, Star Wars Black Series 112 scale. An excellent figure and a contender for Best Figure of the Year, in my opinion. Please tune in next Prime. We will be covering something new, and I hope that all of you have a wonderful day and a wonderful month. Until next Prime, bye bye for now.